It was a quiet, unsettling night. Emmy had just finished her shift at the diner, exhausted and hungry. With only a few dollars in her pocket, she made her way to the Family Dollar down the street. The neon lights flickered as she stepped into the store, a stark contrast to the oppressive silence of the night. The store was nearly empty, the usual late-night rush having passed. She grabbed a bag of chips and some soda, her mind half-focused on the hunger gnawing at her stomach. But as she turned down the snack aisle, her eyes met something or someone that made her blood run cold. A man stood near the end of the aisle, his eyes fixed on her. He wasn't looking for anything, just standing there, staring. His gaze was unnerving, like a weight pressing on her chest. She tried to brush it off, telling herself he was just another late-night shopper. But the longer she stared back, the more uncomfortable she felt. "Can I help you with something?" she asked, trying to break the silence. The man didn't respond, his gaze still locked on her. There was something off about him, a sickly, predatory vibe that she couldn't shake. She turned quickly and walked toward the checkout, her heart pounding in her chest. The man didn't move, just watched her leave the aisle. As she paid for her items, the cashier, Mark, gave her a look, one she couldn't quite place. He looked nervous, almost like he knew something she didn't. "You all right?" he asked, his voice low. "Yeah, just tired," she replied, trying to ignore the unease in her gut. But as she stepped outside, the sense of being watched only grew. The man from the aisle was standing outside the store, his eyes following her every move. She quickened her pace and left, not daring to look back. The following day, the sense of unease lingered, like a dark cloud over Emmy's head. She couldn't shake the feeling that something was wrong. When she returned to Family Dollar to pick up a few more things, she hoped the encounter with the strange man had been a figment of her imagination, a trick her exhausted mind had played on her. But as soon as she stepped through the door, her stomach dropped. There, near the back of the store, stood the same man, eyes fixed on her once again. This time, he wasn't just staring. His expression was colder, darker. He seemed almost angry. "Can I help you?" she asked, trying to sound casual, though her voice wavered. He didn't reply. Instead, he took a step closer, his presence suffocating her. The air felt thick, oppressive, like the walls were closing in. She backed away, but he followed, his eyes never leaving hers. "Stay away from me," she whispered under her breath. At that moment, Mark, the cashier, appeared by her side. His face was pale, his hands trembling. "He's been doing this to a lot of women," Mark said quietly. "You should leave now." Confused and frightened, Emmy grabbed her items and ran to the door. The man didn't move, just watched her leave, the same chilling stare following her every step. Later that night, Emmy found herself lying awake, staring at the ceiling. Her heart raced. She couldn't stop thinking about the man and the way he had watched her. The unease twisted into something more, an undeniable fear. As she tried to shake off the terror, she noticed something. Her phone buzzed on the nightstand. A message from Mark. "Mark, he's been here before. He's been watching you too." The next day, she went to the police. Detective Harris, a sharp woman with a no-nonsense attitude, listened carefully as Emmy recounted everything. The strange man, the way he'd followed her, the sense of being stalked. "Did he say anything to you?" the detective asked, her eyes narrowing. "Number, but he keeps following me," Emmy said, voice trembling. What if he wants something from me?" The detective nodded. "Stay alert. We'll look into him." Days passed. Nothing happened. But the dread never lifted. Emmy began to feel like she was walking through a fog, constantly looking over her shoulder. Every stranger seemed like a threat. And then, on a cold evening, it happened. Emmy returned home to find her front door ajar. She froze, her breath catching in her throat. She hadn't left it open. Her heart raced as she slowly stepped inside. The apartment was eerily quiet, but then she heard it, a soft creak from the hallway. She turned slowly, her hands trembling. There he was, the man, standing in the doorway. Before she could react, he lunged toward her. Panic surged through her veins as she backed away, reaching for anything she could grab. In the chaotic blur, she reached for a kitchen knife and turned to face him. He smiled, a twisted, almost hungry grin. "I've been waiting for you, Emmy," he said, his voice low and unsettling. The words sent a shockwave through her. How did he know her name? The struggle that followed felt like an eternity, but as the chaos subsided, Emmy realized something horrifying. She wasn't alone. The police had arrived just in time, dragging the man off of her. He was subdued, but his eyes, those cold, dead eyes, never stopped staring. Later, Detective Harris stood in the apartment, her face grim. "His name's Sam Peterson. We've been tracking him for a while. He's obsessed with you, Emmy. He thought you were someone else, a woman who disappeared years ago. His obsession turned into this." Emmy shuddered. It wasn't just a random encounter. It was something more, something dark and twisted. And as she stared at the man being led away, cuffed and broken, she realized one thing. The past doesn't always stay buried. Sometimes, it catches up with you when you least expect it. Rachel was tired, exhausted from the endless shifts at the Family Dollar on the outskirts of town. She didn't particularly care for the job, but it was all she had left after the mess that had become of her life. Once she had dreams of going to college, of becoming something more than just another face behind the counter. But reality had a way of knocking those dreams down. She had moved to this small town after a painful breakup with her ex, Mark. He had cheated, and she'd caught him red-handed. Her heart had shattered, and she'd moved here for a fresh start. It was supposed to be a new beginning. No one knew her here. She was just another anonymous face in a nondescript town. But all that really changed was the pain she carried inside her. The Family Dollar was a lifeline in a way. It was a dead-end job, but it paid the bills. Rachel kept her head down, did her job, and went home to her small, lonely apartment. The nights were the worst. She'd stare out of her bedroom window, wishing she could erase the past. But every night, the same thought would circle back. I need to be stronger. I need to move on. That night was different, though. It was her last shift of the week, and Rachel could sense something in the air, something off. She tried to ignore it, chalking it up to exhaustion. The store was nearly empty, the fluorescent lights humming above her. A few late-night shoppers meandered through the aisles, but everything felt still, silent, dead. As she was organizing the discount aisle, the door jingled behind her. Rachel turned, expecting another customer. Instead, she froze. A man stepped in. He was tall, his hair unkempt, wearing a dirty jacket that looked like it hadn't been washed in days. His eyes were cold, vacant, and his presence sent a chill down her spine. He was alone, which was strange at this hour. Most people came in pairs or small groups, not this solitary figure. But it wasn't just his appearance that unnerved Rachel. It was the way he moved, slowly, purposefully, like he had all the time in the world, but something about it was off. "Can I help you?" Rachel asked, trying to keep her voice steady, though her palms were already starting to sweat. The man didn't reply immediately. Instead, he glanced around the store, his eyes scanning the aisles as if searching for something, or someone. His gaze lingered on Rachel for just a moment too long, then moved to the shelves. "No," he finally muttered, his voice low and gravelly. "I'm just looking." Rachel felt her heart race. There was something about his tone, something hollow, that made the hairs on the back of her neck stand up. She watched him closely, unsure of what to make of it. The man wandered through the aisles, his footsteps echoing in the empty store. Rachel tried to focus on her work, but her mind kept returning to him. She couldn't shake the feeling that something was wrong. He was too quiet, too deliberate. Every movement felt like it was calculated, like he was waiting for something, waiting for her. Minutes stretched into what felt like hours. Every time she glanced up, the man was still there, just out of her sight. She couldn't explain why, but the air around him felt thick, like it was holding its breath. "Can I help you find something?" Rachel asked again, her voice barely above a whisper this time. He turned to face her, his eyes locking with hers. For a brief moment, there was no emotion in his face, no recognition, just a blank, hollow stare. And then, just as quickly, the moment passed, and the man smirked. "No need," he said, his voice still low, almost like a murmur. "I'm just here for a while." Rachel's stomach twisted. Here for a while? The words echoed in her head, the meaning behind them unclear but deeply unsettling. She watched him move toward the back of the store, his footsteps growing softer as he disappeared into the shadows. The rest of the shift passed in a blur. The man's presence lingered in the back of her mind, but she couldn't quite put her finger on why she felt so unsettled. She was just about to finish up when she heard a noise, a faint scrape, followed by a soft shuffle of footsteps. Turning toward the noise, Rachel's heart sank. The man was standing in the back office now, just inside the doorway. His back was to her, but she could see the vague outline of his form through the frosted glass of the office door. She thought about calling out to him. Maybe he needed help after all. But something stopped her. The thought of approaching him seemed dangerous. Rachel hesitated, unsure what to do. She reached for her phone but stopped short. What was she going to say? "Hey, are you lost?" Before she could make up her mind, the door to the office creaked open, slowly, as if it were waiting for something to happen. Rachel's instincts screamed at her to run. She turned and bolted for the back exit, her breath shallow, her heart pounding in her chest. The fluorescent lights above flickered erratically, casting long shadows across the store. She could hear the man's footsteps behind her now, closing in. Just as she reached the back door, she spun around, trying to push it open, but it wouldn't budge. The lock was jammed. No. Panic clawed at her chest. She banged on the door, but the more she tried to escape, the more it felt like the store was closing in on her. It wasn't just the man. Something else, something far darker, was waiting for her here. "Where are you going?" The man's voice cut through the silence, chilling her to the bone. He was close now, too close. Rachel turned to face him. His eyes locked onto hers, and there was a twisted smile on his lips. "You're not leaving. Not like this." The store seemed to hum with energy, as if it had come alive. She could feel the walls closing in, the shelves bending, warping around her. The man stepped closer, his shadow growing larger. He reached out toward her, and for a moment, she saw his hands. They were pale, skeletal, and stained with something dark, something wet. And then it hit her. This wasn't a man. It was something else entirely. Something old. Something evil. In a blind panic, Rachel backed into the shelves, knocking over a row of cans that spilled across the floor. The man's expression twisted into something grotesque, his smile widening, his eyes darkening. She could feel the walls pressing in on her, closing the space around her. The air was thick with the stench of rot. The store wasn't just a store anymore. It had become a prison, a place where time didn't exist, where people came in but never left. Rachel stumbled back, her mind reeling. She had to get out. She had to escape. And then the lights went out. It was one of those quiet, eerie days in the middle of a small American town where the weight of the world didn't seem to reach. The streets, though empty, held the feeling that something bad was bound to happen. The air was thick with an unsettling quiet, the kind that made your skin crawl without explanation. For Maya, That feeling had been lingering for days now, but today, it felt different. It felt like a warning. She pushed open the door to Family Dollar, her usual stop on a Saturday afternoon. The bell above the door jingled with a cheery sound that seemed to mock the growing unease in her chest. The air inside was stale, the fluorescent lights humming in the silence of the store. It was just a mundane shopping trip. But as Maya turned into the aisle, she noticed him. The man stood at the end of the aisle, his eyes locked on her, too intense, too unblinking. He wasn't like the usual shoppers. His face was gaunt, his clothes outdated, and his gaze felt like it could strip her of her very soul. For a moment she froze, her heart hammering in her chest. The man didn't move, just watched. She quickly picked up what she needed, but it didn't help. The man was always there, lurking in the corner of her vision. Maya hurried to the counter, trying to ignore the shiver crawling up her spine. But as she stood there, her hands trembling, she could feel his eyes on her. And this time, he was smiling. Maya didn't say anything as she checked out. The cashier gave her a strange look, but she was used to that now. She had been living in this town long enough to know how people acted when they felt something was off. The man was still there, near the door, still watching. But as she walked out, she heard him. His voice was low and raspy, like a whispering wind. "You're not safe, you know." She froze, turning around to find him standing only a few feet away. His eyes were wide now, too wide, and they seemed to pierce through her, as though he could see into the very marrow of her bones. What do you want?" Maya stammered, her voice shaking. He didn't answer. Instead, he took a step toward her, and in a quiet, almost soothing tone, he said, "You think your mother loves you, don't you? You think you're safe, but you're not." Her stomach lurched. Something wasn't right. Maya hurried home, still unsettled by the strange encounter. Her mother, Tara, was sitting in the living room, watching TV. Maya's pulse was racing, and she felt the need to tell someone, but she couldn't shake the feeling that no one would understand. "Mom, there was this guy at the store." Maya started, her voice trembling. Tara looked up, eyebrows furrowed. "What guy?" He was staring at me, like he knew something was wrong. He said I wasn't safe." Tara shook her head, a dismissive look crossing her face. "Don't let anyone scare you, Maya. People are weird sometimes. You need to stop letting this stuff get to you." But Maya couldn't stop. She had to tell her mother what happened to make her see the danger. But Tara wasn't listening. The argument escalated quickly, and soon Maya's anger overwhelmed her. "You never listen to me," she shouted, her face red with frustration. "You never care." Tara shot back, her voice sharp. "That's not true, Maya, but you're overreacting. You need to calm down." But Maya couldn't calm down. Not now. Not after everything she'd been feeling. She stormed off to her room, but she couldn't shake the feeling that something was wrong. Something deep inside her was screaming at her to act. The house was quiet. Too quiet. The shadows of the evening stretched long across the floor, and Maya was alone with her thoughts. The whispers from earlier echoed in her mind. "You think your mother loves you, don't you?" Her hands were shaking. Her mind was racing, thoughts spinning out of control. She could hear Tara moving around downstairs, oblivious. Maya stood in the doorway of her room, staring at the knife on her dresser. It was so small, so innocuous. But tonight, it felt like a weapon. "You're not safe." The man's words echoed again. She had to do it. She had to protect herself, even if it meant hurting her mother. Without another thought, Maya grabbed the knife and crept downstairs. Tara was sitting on the couch, her back to Maya. She was too lost in the TV show to notice. Maya raised the knife, her breath shallow, and then, in one swift motion, brought it down. The shock didn't come at first. It didn't feel real. But as the blood soaked into the carpet, the weight of what she'd done settled on her chest. It was too late to undo it now. Maya collapsed on the floor, trembling, as the reality of her actions hit her like a freight train. The police arrived within hours. The small town's quiet life was shattered, and the whole neighborhood buzzed with whispers. Maya sat in the interrogation room, her mind a blur. She didn't understand what had happened, why she had done it. I didn't mean to, Maya whispered to the detective, her eyes red from crying. I thought she didn't love me. I thought she didn't care. The detective, a sharp man with piercing eyes, leaned forward. Maya, we've got the man you met at the store. He's been talking. He's the one who put the idea in your head. Maya froze. The man. The detective continued. He's a manipulator, Maya. He's been doing this for years, getting into people's heads. He told you things, didn't he? He made you believe things that weren't true. Maya couldn't speak. The weight of everything crashed down on her. She had been manipulated, just like he said. The strange man's words had planted seeds in her mind, and now it was too late to take them back. The man, whose name was Frank, was arrested and confessed to manipulating several people in the town, including Maya. But he wasn't just some random crazy person. He had a twisted history, a man who thrived on breaking people, making them doubt their loved ones until they turned on them. He had a pattern, and Maya had been his latest victim. The revelation rocked the town. Maya was left to grapple with the truth. The man had controlled her mind, twisted her perceptions, and led her to murder her own mother. As she sat in the cold, sterile room, waiting for her fate to be decided, Maya finally understood. The danger wasn't in the world around her, but in the thoughts that someone could plant inside her head. Birchwood had always been the kind of town that didn't seem to change. It wasn't too big, but it wasn't small either. Just the right balance. People went about their business, minding their own, living quiet lives. Jasmine had moved here from the city, needing a fresh start. The noise and rush of city life had gotten to her, so Birchwood seemed like a perfect escape. But there was something about this place that just didn't sit right with her, something unexplainable. The family dollar store she worked at was nothing special either. It had its regulars, and sometimes during the graveyard shift, Jasmine would be the only one there. It gave her a bit of peace, but tonight, that peace was more like an eerie silence, the kind that weighed heavy on her chest. It was late, almost closing time. The flickering lights above her head were the only sound, but even they seemed hesitant. The store was almost empty, a few customers still milling about the aisles, but nothing that would suggest a memorable night. She was wiping down the counter when she saw them. A couple. They walked into the store like they owned the place. The man, tall and lean, had a presence that was hard to ignore. His pale skin seemed almost unnaturally white, and his long coat, a dark, heavy thing, was out of place for the warm spring night. His eyes, though, those were the worst part. They were too cold, too empty. And the woman who followed him, much younger, was even stranger. Her dark hair fell like a curtain around her face, hiding her eyes. She didn't speak a word. Neither of them did. They moved through the aisles, not looking at anything in particular, but always in sync with each other, as if they were in some kind of trance. There was no sound, no rustling of items, no casual conversation, nothing. Jasmine couldn't shake the feeling that something was wrong, but she forced herself to ignore it. This was just another odd couple in a small-town store, right? Her heart pounded in her chest as she watched them, a knot tightening in her stomach. She'd seen weird customers before, but this felt different. Minutes passed before they came to the counter. The man placed a small, worn box on the counter with a deliberate motion. Jasmine raised an eyebrow as she looked at it. It was just an ordinary cardboard box, plain, with no price tag, no brand, nothing. Just old and weathered, as if it had been sitting somewhere for years. "I'd like to purchase this," the man said, his voice flat, emotionless. Jasmine hesitated. "There's no price tag on this," she said, glancing at the box again, feeling an odd unease growing in her gut. It was just a box. Why did it make her skin crawl? The man didn't reply. He simply looked at her, his cold eyes not blinking. The silence stretched between them, thick and uncomfortable. Jasmine's hands began to tremble, and she could feel the hairs on the back of her neck standing up. It wasn't just the box. It was them. The way they didn't speak. The way they didn't move like normal people. She cleared her throat. "I'm sorry, but I'll need a price for this." The man's lips curved upward just the slightest bit, but his eyes remained cold, unfeeling. He stood there, not saying another word, just staring. Jasmine felt a chill wash over her. The woman next to him didn't move, her face still hidden by the curtain of her hair. But there was something unsettling about her stillness, something wrong. Then, without warning, Jasmine's hand brushed against the box as she tried to place it back on the counter. The sensation was instant, cold, like ice running through her veins. She gasped and pulled back, but the man didn't move. He simply watched her, like he knew she would feel it, like he knew she couldn't avoid it. I can't sell this without a price tag," Jasmine stammered, trying to keep her voice steady, but her heart was racing. The air felt heavier, like it was pressing down on her chest. The man tilted his head, his eyes narrowing ever so slightly. Then he stepped back and turned to leave. The woman followed silently, their movements eerie in their precision. The bell above the door jingled softly as they stepped out, the only sound in the stillness of the store. Jasmine was left standing there, breathless, staring at the spot where they had been. The box lay on the counter in front of her. She knew it wasn't just a box, but what was it? She felt drawn to it, like she couldn't leave it alone. Slowly, she reached for it again, her fingers trembling. As soon as she touched it, a voice echoed through her mind, low, guttural, and unmistakable. "Till death do us part." Her stomach twisted. The box wasn't just cold, it was freezing, its presence burning into her mind. She tried to pull her hand away, but it felt like the box was pulling her in, anchoring her to the counter. She yanked her hand back, her pulse pounding in her ears, but the voice didn't stop. It kept repeating, louder this time. "Till death do us part." Panicked, Jasmine grabbed the box, intending to throw it in the trash. But the moment she let go, it didn't fall. Instead, it hovered in the air, suspended as if by some invisible force. The lights above her flickered, and a gust of wind rushed through the store, though the door remained shut. Then, as quickly as it had appeared, the box dropped, hitting the ground with a loud thud. Jasmine stepped back, her breath shallow. Something was happening. Something she couldn't explain. She felt like she was being watched, trapped in this moment that felt more like a nightmare than reality. That's when they returned, the couple. But this time, they weren't alone. A shadow stretched behind them, tall and thin, like a person but not quite human. It loomed over them, its form indistinct at first, but slowly becoming clearer. The man looked at Jasmine, and his voice was colder than before. "It's time," he said. Jasmine's heart skipped a beat. The shadow moved, its face still hidden in darkness. But its eyes, they glowed, an unnatural, sickly light. And the moment those eyes locked onto hers, she felt a wave of terror wash over her, freezing her in place. The box, the curse, the couple. It was all tied together, and now it was too late to escape. The shadow stepped forward, and the man's words echoed in her mind one last time. "Till death do us part." The store went silent again. No more wind, no more lights flickering. Just the heavy silence that had settled like a shroud. And then everything went black. As the shadow loomed over Jasmine, its shape becoming more defined, her breath caught in her throat. The chill in the air grew unbearable, and the lights flickered violently above her head, casting erratic shadows across the empty aisles. The couple stood motionless, their faces now clear but empty, like shells of people. The man's voice echoed again, cold and unfeeling. "It's time." Jasmine's pulse raced, and she felt the weight of something ancient bearing down on her. She turned her gaze back to the box on the counter. That damned box. Why was it here? Why had it chosen her? The shadow moved, its form shifting, taking shape into something more human, more terrifying. And then, its voice came, not a whisper, but a low growl in her mind. "You were always meant to be part of this." Jasmine's blood ran cold. She wanted to scream, but the words caught in her throat. She couldn't move, couldn't escape. She tried to take a step back, but her feet felt glued to the floor. That's when she realized this wasn't just about the box. It was about her, about the life she thought she was escaping by coming here. The man reached for the box, and as his fingers brushed the edge, Jasmine felt the room tilt, everything around her spinning. The walls seemed to close in, the air growing thick and suffocating. The store, the couple, the shadow. They were all part of something much larger than her, something that had been waiting for her arrival. "You didn't escape," the shadow whispered, now towering above her. Its face remained hidden, but its eyes glowed with an eerie light burning through the darkness. "You were always meant to serve the curse." A flash of memories hit her like a wave. Strange dreams she'd had since moving to Birchwood, the feeling of being watched, and the recurring sense of déjà vu every time she passed the Family Dollar. It was all connected, tied to the town, to the curse that had been passed down for generations. She hadn't just chosen this town by chance. She had been drawn to it, like so many others before her. Her mind raced, trying to make sense of it all. She thought she'd been running from something, but no, she was running toward it. And then it hit her. The box. It wasn't just a box. It was the vessel of the curse. The man and the woman weren't here by accident. They had been waiting for someone to unlock its power, and she had been the key all along. The curse had been passed down through the generations, but now it was finally her turn to take her place. She had unknowingly walked into it, the same way every person before her had. Jasmine tried to scream, but her voice was lost in the growing darkness. The last thing she saw was the shadow towering over her, and the man's lips moving in silent words as he held the box high. "Till death do us part." Suddenly, the entire store seemed to freeze. The box, now glowing with an unnatural light, floated between them, pulsing with energy. Jasmine felt herself drawn toward it, as though it had become a part of her. The coldness spread throughout her body, and she could feel her very life force being drained. Then, a sharp pain shot through her chest. The curse had taken hold. The shadow loomed over her once more, and she understood now. This wasn't just a death, it was a transformation. She was becoming part of something much darker. The moment she touched the box, she had bound herself to it. There would be no escape. The curse would live on through her, and the cycle would continue. The lights above her blinked once more, flickering one last time before they died out completely. And just like that, Jasmine was gone, her presence erased from the world. Outside, the couple walked down the empty street, disappearing into the night as if they were nothing more than a bad memory. And somewhere in Birchwood, a new shadow began to form. Jasmine's body felt heavy as the shadow loomed closer. Its presence was suffocating, and the words it whispered clawed at her mind like nails on a chalkboard. "You were always meant to serve the curse." She felt frozen, her legs refusing to move, her lungs unable to draw in air. This was it. This was the end. Or so she thought. In a moment of pure desperation, something inside Jasmine stirred, an ember of defiance. No, she wouldn't let it end like this. She hadn't escaped the chaos of the city to die in a small-town Family Dollar, swallowed by something she didn't understand. She forced herself to breathe, to focus. even as the shadow's glowing eyes bore into her soul. The box. It was the key. If this thing wanted it, then maybe it could be destroyed. With a trembling hand, Jasmine lunged for the box. The cold that surged through her veins was unbearable, but she held on, fighting the urge to let go. The shadow recoiled slightly, as though her defiance had surprised it. The man and the woman didn't move, but their gazes burned into her, cold and unforgiving. The shadow roared, a guttural sound that made the walls shake. It lunged toward her, its dark form stretching and twisting, but Jasmine refused to let fear consume her. Summoning every ounce of strength she had left, she hurled the box to the ground with all her might. The sound of the box shattering echoed through the store like a thunderclap. The air around her shifted violently, a rush of cold wind blasting through the aisles. Jasmine stumbled back, shielding her face as shards of the box scattered across the floor. A brilliant, blinding light erupted from the broken remains, and for a moment it seemed as though the entire store was consumed by it. The shadow shrieked, its form writhing and contorting. It tried to reach for the light, but the glow burned it, its edges dissolving into nothingness. The man and the woman finally moved, their synchronized grace replaced by jerky, unnatural spasms. They turned to Jasmine, their faces now twisted in something that resembled pain, or was it anger? "You've made a mistake," the man hissed, his voice no longer flat but filled with venom. "The curse doesn't end. It never ends." The woman's hair fell back, revealing hollow, lifeless eyes that stared straight into Jasmine's. She stepped forward, her movements unnatural, jerking as though she were a marionette with tangled strings. But Jasmine didn't falter. She picked up the heaviest thing she could find, a metal flashlight, and swung it at the glowing remnants of the box. The light flickered once, then exploded outward, engulfing the shadow, the couple, and the entire store in a deafening roar. When the dust settled, Jasmine found herself lying on the cold floor, her ears ringing and her body trembling. The store was eerily silent now, the oppressive weight in the air gone. Slowly, she sat up, her eyes scanning the space. The shadow was gone. The couple was gone. And the box? It was nothing more than a pile of ash. Jasmine let out a shaky breath, tears streaming down her face. She had survived. Somehow, she had survived. The next morning, she told her manager she was quitting. She didn't bother explaining why. There were no words to describe what had happened. As she packed up her things and walked out of Birchwood for the last time, she felt a strange mix of relief and dread. The curse was broken, but the man's final words echoed in her mind. The curse doesn't end. It never ends. A week later, a new Family Dollar employee found a small, worn box tucked away on the highest shelf in the back room. Curious, they brought it to the counter, running their fingers over its weathered surface. And in that moment, somewhere far away, a shadow began to stir,